Good morning, everybody. My name is Tiffany DuBois-Morales, and I am your host for Tiffany's Community Spotlight, recording at the Pyramid Club. Today with me, I have the wonderful Rick Alcantara. He is currently the chapter president for the International Association of Business Communicators, director at large for the Public Relations Society of America, and a very good friend and colleague of mine, and more importantly, my husband's father, Lou Morales. So thank you so much for coming on to the show and, introduce.
Yeah. You forgot to mention that I'm also Batman.
Oh, yes. Yes. Sorry. He's also Batman. Yeah.
Yeah. So, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. We've known each other for a lot of years. Like you mentioned, I've known your dad for like a million years, it seems. And he was one of my inspirations in PRSA because when I first got involved in the organization, I think he may have been the chapter president or maybe just a chapter president, not too far removed. Yeah. Always admired him, still admire him, and love having chances to chat with him. And was it 2 years ago, we got to see him at the 70th anniversary for PRSA. So that was wonderful to have him on board. And we had all of our past presidents back, or most of our past presidents are still living in this area. So that was fun.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a lot of fun. Tell me about how you got into public relations and communication.
Well, it wasn't my plan from birth. Let's put it that way. Although some people may think so. Actually, when I was in college as an undergrad, I was a radio communications major. Okay. So I finished college and went into radio down in Baltimore, Harrisburg, Allentown, Pennsylvania. Eventually began to realize, well, there's not a lot of money in radio unless you're like Howard Stern or somebody like that. You're probably not going to make a ton of money in radio. And the transitions between stations and between markets is very frequent. So in order to really make any money, you're moving from a smaller market to a bigger market to a bigger market. And I knew a guy who was at one of the stations I worked at. I was probably, 22 years old. This guy was probably in his, late 50s, and he'd already been on like a seventh market. So I said, that's not the future I want. So eventually I went back to grad school at Rowan University. At the time it was Glassboro State College. And I had received something in the mail just saying, hey, check out our graduate courses. So I said, what the heck? Why not? So I did one course, liked it, decided to do a few more, then decided to, take the exam to get into college. And then I was off and running and got my degree from Rowan. And while I was still at school, I enrolled in the Public Relations Student Society of America's, student chapter. And that's how I got involved with PRSA. And then at the time I was in school, I interned with the chapter president from PRSA. And she recruited me to get onto a committee and then eventually become a board member and then eventually become chapter president. And then, it just kind of mushroomed there. So I've been involved with PRSA for 25 years or more. And my wife still blames my former mentor for that.
That's awesome, man. All right. Well, 25 years. Yeah. I like it. So that's the story we're going with?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good to know. Okay. Let's see. Well, considering your vast years of experience, I'm sure you've had some rather interesting campaigns or, stories to tell. From the early years.
There's been some interesting things. For example, years ago, I had a prior business that I founded and did a lot of digital communications, did a lot of website development. And one time I was at a Christmas party for a municipality down in the state of New Jersey, met the mayor. The mayor was talking with me and we got to talking about the work that I do and told her I did website projects. And she said, well, our website's not really that great. Can you take a look at it? I did. We got to talking. She liked what she heard from what I said. And then eventually I got hired to do a website for the municipality. First one I ever did for a municipality. Nice. After we launched the site, I submitted it into the New Jersey League of Municipalities Public Affairs contest, and it was selected the best municipal site in the state of New Jersey at that time. And then we got an opportunity, the mayor and I, to go down to the League of Municipalities conference in Atlantic City, received a nice big plaque that was presented to us by the governor, which was pretty neat, considering it was the first municipal site I ever did, and to get an award like that was pretty nice.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Tell me the horror stories.
The horror stories, not too many horror stories, but there are some interesting situations. Like, I do a lot of crisis communication planning. And when I go in and I sit down and talk with these senior executives, C-suite executives, senior vice presidents, you name it, we find that there's a lot of gaps in these companies planning for the event of a disaster. So if there was a fire or there was some other issue that would blow up into a media storm, they're not prepared. And they may have a contingency plan. They have an operational recovery plan so that if the building burns down, they move operations to South Carolina or whatever. But they haven't made plans for how they would communicate that to their employees, to their customers, to their partners, to the media, to legislators, regulators, whatever. So, in that sense, it's a horror story for those companies.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely. There was a situation a few years back. I had been planning this with the Philadelphia Public Relations Association. I was part of the planning committee for the gold medal luncheon, and the press release took about a month to put together because there were 30 people whose opinions needed to be consulted instead of just maybe like 3 or 4 people. And it was it was an interesting plan, but and setup. I put together one press release, another PR person put together another press release, and then it finally got smashed into the final press release. And then we didn't fully have like a plan in action for like the day of the event. So I wound up being in addition to the marketing committee member, I was also the chair of decorating the whole space. That was a lot of fun, but yeah, it wasn't properly communicated.
And that's a common problem, I think, within corporations or even associations, is if you've got that decision making by committee, or you've got to go through multiple levels of approval, that can be a challenge. With the crisis planning, a lot of times you may have the IT team, the communications team, the legal team, all at odds. Each one wanting to control, a response. Each one thinking they know what's happening and what works and what doesn't work. Or you might be a situation like I worked for a company that had both union and non-union employees, both here in Philadelphia and in Chicago. Man. So everything that we did, if I was writing an internal communication, sometimes I had to write 4 or 5 versions of that document for the folks here in Philly and the folks over in Chicago, non-union, and then 4 or 5 different sets of approvals. So, the message changes.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, no, definitely. Okay, tell me a little bit about your work within the International Association of Business Communicators.
Well, it's been, actually I was on the board for several years in the early 2000s. I was probably about 7 or 8 years left the organization. Came back about 4 years ago, became a vice president of communications. And then I tossed my hat in the ring because they needed somebody to serve as president. So I said, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And so I started my term last January, and it's a 2-year term. So I've got another year to go. And, we've got a great board, and trying to add more folks to that. So we have a new secretary, a new treasurer. We have a new person in charge of DEI. We have a new person in charge of programs. So it's really coming together. And interestingly enough, it's a small chapter, but the International Association, and especially the Regional Association for IABC, thinks we are just going gangbusters because our program schedule is so robust. We decided last year to run programs throughout the year and not take the summer off. We started doing, in some situations, 2 programs a month instead of just 1. Nice. And we've already got our programs slated through the month of March. And my program director and I are working on May, June, and July. Nice. And our goal is to, starting in March, to have both a virtual program and then a live program at the same time. One of the challenges for us has been, of course, COVID, which has been a problem for businesses and associations, and being able to get people to come together for a live meeting. So we have been virtual basically since March of 2020. We had one live event, and that's MAN, which was a kind of a networking function for mostly the board members, but anybody from the group could attend. But it's been a challenge to kind of get people to come together, because when you have a regional organization, we have people in Jersey, we have people in the suburbs, we have people downtown. So getting people to come to one common place is a challenge.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any like upcoming events that any of my listeners or viewers would be interested in?
Yeah, actually, we have one tomorrow, which I'll be hosting. So Carla Guest, who is works for Siemens in Canada, is going to be our guest, and she's going to be speaking about persona-based employee communications. And then we have in January, Eric Hansen is going to be joining us. He's going to be talking about how to unclutter your life with social media, or how to unclutter your social media life. Let's put it that way. And then in March, we have Nancy Harhut, who was a guest of ours about 16 or 18 months ago.
Wow.
So she's coming back and doing another presentation. She is brilliant. Her book is fantastic, and I can't wait to host her again. And then April, we're looking to put together a panel discussion on accessible communications. So these are for folks who are hard of hearing, vision impaired, whatever, and what companies can be doing to improve communications for that community. And then we're just going to keep building. So we're talking to all kinds of folks about different aspects of communication. So it's not just improving your communication skills with your company, whether external or internal, but also your personal skills, or even how to be a better coach to your internal clients, especially senior executives.
That's awesome. Yeah, that sounds very, very, very interesting. Are we going to be doing any partnerships with PRSA or any other
Well, there's a big one coming up. I think it's January 25th, I believe. The social media, so 2024 Philadelphia Social Media Day. So we've got, I think, about 10 associations coming together. We did this last January, and it was very successful.
Yes, it was.
PRSA, IABC, the American Marketing Association, Philadelphia Public Relations Association, a bunch of others. So the goal here is to have networking between the different folks, encourage kind of the sense of community within these different associations, because we're essentially all in it together.
Exactly. Yeah, no, definitely. Did the tickets already go on sale? Because I haven't heard anything.
No, it's going to be about $30.
Standard.
I just post the save the date on our website about a week ago. So I'm actually meeting the president of the PP, or the administrator for the Philadelphia Ad Club this afternoon, and we're going to go through some of those logistics.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's definitely good. I noticed you didn't mention anything for February.
Actually, we do have two programs in February.
Okay.
So February 7th, Greg Feistman, who is a professor at Temple University, is going to be coming in and talking about ethics in PR. And we're going to have a very interactive discussion. I've known Greg for 20 plus years, and we're just going to have a talk, and we're just going to cover all the bases. So we'll talk about, ethics in corporations. We'll talk about the approach that PRSA and IABC and other organizations are taking, and what kind of stands they've taken on these issues, or have not taken on these issues that are relevant, in politics or in government or in the media.
Nice. I'll probably be able to make that. Yeah, because we don't leave for my birthday trip until Monday the 12th.
Yeah. So I just tell everybody, just go on our chapter website, iabcphiladelphia.org, and they'll find all the events up there. We're also doing a partnership with the conference board in New York, and that's coming up. I think it's the last day of February, first day of March, and this is the second time we're partnering with them on an event up in New York City.
Nice.
Yeah. So we're busy.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I can see that. That is freaking fantastic. Good. All right. Well, Speaking of travel, any travel plans for, Christmas or New Year's?
No
or
travel
anything?
plans. I just got back from Texas. I was 12 days in Texas visiting family, and it was fun. And everything really is bigger in Texas. All the stores, all the restaurants, all the
Yep.
highways, everything is huge. And
Yeah.
then you come back to New Jersey. So it was like 70 when I was there. I came back, it was like 30 here. So I was like, well, I was
Yeah.
enjoying my stay in Texas.
Oh, that's always a lot of fun. Yeah, we're not really doing anything for Christmas, but for New Year's, we will be out of town.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, my wife and I, I don't think the last time we went out on New Year's was probably when we first met, like 30
Oh
some
my
years ago. We just don't,
God.
it's not a big holiday for us. We just don't
Well,
celebrate
yeah,
New Year's.
no, pretty much.
It's
Plus,
probably safer.
for
We
the
don't be
longest-
driving on New Year's Eve.
Plus, well, yeah. Although lucky for us, we're hitting the road Saturday, the 30th
Yeah.
of December. Jolly. Okay.
Yeah, and it works better if you can get out early and leave later. I mean, that was my Thanksgiving plans. I headed to Texas, a week before Thanksgiving. I left the Tuesday after Thanksgiving, so I avoided all the headaches and all the congestion and canceled or delayed flights. So, and then if I needed to take the extra time, I could. If it was a delay, I work for myself, so no problem.
Yeah, perks of being a business owner. We get to dictate our schedules.
Yeah, but we also got to deal with all the headaches of being the business owner.
I know. No, although my official line is no comment. Oh my God, no comment.
But
Awesome.
man, you're the first line of defense and the last line of defense. You're also the one that's got to pay all the bills. You've got to be able to do accounting. You've got to do bookkeeping. You've got to do, business development. You've got to actually do the work. Unless you're bringing in contractors, which I do.
Lucky you. I'm not that lucky. Small business owner. Everybody, remember that.
Yeah.
So, don't quibble about what I charge you.
Well, the advantage to having the subcontractors is that it allows you to expand the breadth of what you can offer your clients. Mm-hmm. It also allows you have people who are actually working, and you can actually afford to take a day off or a week off or take a vacation, which you may not be able to do a lot of times when you're working for yourself.
That is true.
And a lot of things as a business owners know is that you might wind up, instead of working the 8-hour day, you're working the 10 or 12-hour day, which I used to do, which I don't do anymore.
That is true. Yeah, no, that is definitely true. But okay, nice. Has there been any changes really within the communication industry as you see it since the pandemic?
You mean other than the train wreck formerly known as Twitter?
Oh, well, yeah. There is that. And then let's not forget that we have a about to be finished mayor who doesn't really like the city of Philadelphia anymore.
Well, you see a lot of challenges, I think, in communications. And I started with Twitter because I think that has become a case study for what not to do. I mean, the business is kind of spiraling downward. The advertisers are bailing out in droves because they just don't like what's being presented on the platform. They don't like the direction of what the owner is doing and what he's saying and what he's advocating. And that creates a problem for advertisers. I think one of the big issues was companies were finding that their ads were appearing next to, questionable content, racist content, and they didn't want to be there, so they bailed. I think another issue is that companies are just not putting an emphasis many times on, what they value as effective communications. And I think AI might be having an impact on that. And I think it will have a bigger impact as we go forward, because if you were a business owner, especially a small business owner, would you pay you or me a salary or the dollars to come in and do the job when they can just go into AI and tell AI to pump out a press release? They might not be able to, it's not going to have the quality. It's not going to have any kind of empathy, in its message. It's not going to have a human feel to it, but they might just look at the dollar and cents of it. So it could have an impact on, how many people will remain employed in PR or internal communications, external relations. Although I'm seeing that more and more of the PR agencies are now adopting more and more AI technology not only for their internal use, but also using it to create messaging and campaigns for their clients. So I think that is going to be the biggest change that you're going to see in communications going forward.
Yeah,
And
no,
then I'd say the
definitely.
third thing is, just from the association side, is that associations membership worldwide, not just here in the U.S., is trending downward, and it's becoming a real struggle for associations to keep members and to attract members. And I think there's two problems there. I think one is that companies are not willing to spend the money on their employees to attend these events or become members, because they're afraid that if they do spend the money, that employee is going to become better skilled and better trained, and they might take that somewhere else. The other
True.
side of it is that they might feel a pinch, which is we just don't have the funds to pay for you to do this development. And so they don't pay for it. Then the employee looks at it and says, well, if the company doesn't value it, why would I value it? So I'm not going to pursue that. So, membership in PR associations and other associations just seems to be going down. And so the associations, I think, got to get very creative as to find ways to bring membership up.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, this has been really nice. Yeah, I like it. I think actually we're going to be pretty much done. So once again, thank you so very much
Absolutely. Always fun.
for coming to Tiffany's Community Spotlight. Please remember to subscribe, like, comment. Tiffany's Community Spotlight on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you stream your podcasts. I'm your host, Tiffany DuBois-Morales, and I will see you all later.